What up? It's your boy T-Bear on Reactions. Today is Making Wrestling Wednesday. But check out a video called from Wrestling Flashback now because that's doing more tens. It's doing tens of uh, wrestlers' failures and mistakes. This one is from Wrestling Flashback. 10 W wrestlers who destroyed their careers for with one mistake. Sometimes that one big mistake can cost your career no matter what as well too. So yeah, without further ado, we want to take a look at 10 wrestlers who let that one mistake ruin their career. Let's get it.
1, 2, is this on?
WWE is the big time for every wrestler, but some can throw it all away due to bad behavior or one key mistake.
July 9th, 2001 will go down as the worst day of my entire life.
And they may not ever make it back to the company because of this.
Yeah, he got blackballed from a few places. Yeah, wouldn't touch him. Yeah. That's unfortunate because he was taken up for his business.
This can be just or unfair, depending on what they did.
Don would sit by the monitors and just destroy Riley and just talk about how much of a piece of shit that he was, how horrible that he was, every single day.
We'll look at various examples today as we highlight mistakes that ruined 10 WWE wrestlers' careers. When we talk about wrestlers making mistakes that cost them their careers, it's easy to forget how those moments might have weighed on them personally. Losing something as big as your job, or even just struggling with the pressure to succeed, can take a real toll. If you've ever felt stuck or overwhelmed, you're not alone. And that's where the paid partner for today's video, BetterHelp, comes in. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, offering professional therapy that's tailored to your needs. Whether you're dealing with stress, self-doubt, or just feeling like life is a bit too much, BetterHelp connects you with a credentialed therapist in just a few clicks. And here's the best part, it's all online. No traffic, no waiting rooms, just therapy on your terms. You can choose video calls, phone sessions, or even text messaging if you're more comfortable writing things out. And if your first therapist isn't the right fit, switching is easy and free. Therapy isn't about fixing what's broken, it's about building the tools you need to thrive. BetterHelp can help you process challenges, regain confidence, and create a game plan for your life. And right now you can get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/wrestlingflashback, or check the link in the description to get 10% off your first month, because taking care of your mental health isn't just important, it's essential. Now let's get into the list. In 2011, Alex Riley's stock appeared to be high in WWE. That was until he fell down the card after a strong initial push.
Look at me like that. Get him!
Always wondered how it
This
happened.
might seem normal since it happens all the time in WWE, but in Riley's case, there was a more sinister reason at play. Riley had befriended John Cena, and they would often drink large amounts together on Cena's tour bus. But after this got too much for Riley, Cena took offense. It's something Riley's friends in WWE, Ryback and the former Tyler Rex, have spoken about.
So Alex didn't want to drink anymore with John. And it said, I can't be doing this, I'm missing workouts. And there was heavy drinking. There was more than drinking that either happened or was asked to happen, and Alex declined.
Riley's like, I just need a break, dude. And Cena looked at him like that, and that was the end of Riley, dude. After that, he was buried. Like, he lost everything from that day forward.
The drinking stuff seems to only be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Cena and Riley's fallout, though Riley has never really gone into detail as to what happened.
We both had different belief systems. That's the best way I can articulate it. You know, I think it came down to really at the end, like two men just not liking each other. It had an impact on my career because he is who he is.
I'm not in the habit of destroying anybody's career. So it's just something at this point I don't want to address further than that.
John would sit by the monitors and just destroy Riley and just talk about how much of a piece of shit that he was, how horrible that he was, every single day. I have suspicions that he's locked up on an NDA with everything. Clearly, he's telling you the information that he has will destroy John Cena's career.
One thing for sure is that whatever occurred negatively affected Riley's career in a big way. He wasn't given a featured role again in WWE. Meanwhile, Cena has gone on to achieve bigger success outside wrestling. So any bad press or potentially career-damaging scandal would now be much worse for John.
Do I look like a jacked up white guy with a giant head and a military crew cut? If I did, I wouldn't have a career here. Ask Alex Riley about that.
Let's next talk about New Jack. I know what you're thinking. He's made tons of mistakes, but there's one specific reason he was given as to why WWE turned him down, and it pales in comparison to all the literal crimes he's committed on wrestling shows. It never seemed possible that WWE would take a chance on New Jack given his past history, but the original gangster was given a tryout in 2005. Just weeks prior to this, he was rumored as the possible culprit to have attacked John Cena in a nightclub during Cena's storyline with Carlito.
And they wanted to use me with Cena.
There were definitely talks to New Jack. I don't think anybody wanted to touch him because of his reputation. and unpredictability.
Nevertheless, New Jack went in for his tryout in 05, but was given clear instruction by road agent Dean Malenko not to approach or talk to Vince McMahon. Jack found this odd since he felt that he was a big enough name in wrestling to introduce himself directly to the boss, so he did just that.
As I became a man, I'm still rebellious. So if you told me to do something, I do something totally opposite. Now, I don't know if he was telling me not to do it to fuck with me, or if that's just the rule of the locker room. But he walked by and I'm like, hey, how you doing, New Jack? I just don't believe in the unnecessary bullshit that comes along with this fucking business. You know, oh, yes, sir, thank you, sir, I'm glad you let me come here, sir. That was why I never went. Because Vince, he didn't say it directly to me, but I was told from somebody very reliable. He said he would never hire me because he's been told that he can't control me.
It wasn't long after this that Jack's name was scrubbed off the lineup sheet for dark matches, meaning he wouldn't be getting his tryout, all because he greeted McMahon. We never ended up getting to see New Jack in WWE, which is fair enough if you cite his past crimes and behavior as being the reason, but not for something so trivial as introducing himself to the chairman, especially since this occurred during the period where wrestlers were expected to shake every single company employee's hand every time they arrived at an arena. Buff Bagwell's Buff Daddy persona seemed like it would be a great fit for the World Wrestling Federation, so when the company brought him in following World Championship Wrestling's closure, there seemed to be high hopes for the WCW stalwart, especially since WWF gave Buff his debut in the main event of Monday Night Raw versus Booker T on July 2nd, 2001. However, the bout was so poorly received that WCW having its own show was scrapped, and in one night, Bagwell shot down the pecking order.
The fact is, the crowd can't help it.
I know that night I was ready to perform at the highest level. And that night I did not perform at my highest level. And I can say this, it wasn't my fault.
And he wasn't in good shape, not in good ring shape. He blew up early and the match wasn't really good.
But people believed what they heard, which was I got fired because of a bad match. If that was the case, there'd be somebody fired every week.
But the match with Book wasn't the main reason, since Buff's goose may have already been cooked in WWF during the week leading up to this. The main event with Booker was set up to fail, since the Tacoma, Washington audience likely hadn't a clue who either man was. It was a market WCW barely ever ran, so they didn't react positively to anything the wrestlers did. Plus, Federation fans had been conditioned by the company into thinking Ted Turner's promotion was second rate. Days before the match with Booker, Bagwell got into a bust-up with Shane Helms after Buff hit first during a training session for the WCW guys that were coming in.
I didn't know it, but he had an ice bottle under his shirt, a frozen brick, and goes, wow.
That was kind of the end of Bagwell from an attitude feeling, thinking that, good God, he's fighting with his own people. Is this somebody we really want to invest in?
Then during a dark segment on the next week's SmackDown, Buff got absolutely annihilated by the WWF wrestlers.
Oh, wow.
In just 2 weeks, Bagwell had already got himself a lot of heat.
But with it being dark, and as hard as he did, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man, you know? I said, at least let the cameras be on, you know?
While all this didn't help Buff's cause, the real kicker that might have screwed it for him in WWF was rubbing Jim Ross the wrong way. JR was in charge of signing wrestlers as the head of talent relations at the time. Ross also booked the house shows. Bagwell says Jim gave him the weekend off after the Booker T match. However, JR said that Buff's mother Judy called up to say her son couldn't work the live events due to injury, something Bagwell vehemently denies.
That was right after he started here, right?
Yeah, right after. He'd been here 2 or 3 weeks. I said, why's that? He said, well, his mother called for him. Yeah, I saw him Monday and said, your mother would never call me again.
Jim, you're a fucking liar. You went out, you started this fucking rumor that ruined my career. Let's say that my mom did do it and she's lying to me. Do you fire Buff Bagwell over that?
Oh, fans, I don't know what to think about this. He's showing his mind.
Bagwell showed up for TV the next Monday in his hometown of Atlanta, only to be fired. He's never returned to WWE in any capacity since.
Mark's own personal habits and the way he conducted himself was what let the air out of his sails.
There's absolutely nothing I did that I feel like I did wrong, except for a bad match with Booker T.
July 9th, 2001 will go down as the worst day of my entire life. That was the beginning of a 20-year addiction.
With his Shrek-like appearance, oversized features, and a unique all-round look, Lars Sullivan was a throwback to a long-forgotten era of wrestler. With so many polished and clean-looking superstars on the roster, Lars stood out like the freak he was pushed as.
Freak show, freak show. Everyone look at the freak show.
Mitch.
Oh my goodness, Lars Sullivan! Planning angle!
This push meant Sullivan was about to be programmed in a feud with John Cena in early 2019, but when Lars missed shows due to an anxiety attack, it raised concern. Sullivan was already worried about his past behavior coming to light. We're not talking about his background in adult films, because that doesn't compare to the horrid stuff Lars posted on a bodybuilding forum between 2007 and 2013. Sullivan published a repeated slew of offensive and discriminatory posts, some of which were directed at WWE talent. He was fined $100,000 and sent to complete sensitivity training by the company as a result. The Freak, as he was known, suffered a knee injury during this time, which kept him out of action indefinitely. A year and a half went by before Lars returned to TV, where he stuck around for about a month before disappearing again, until finally departing in January 2021, citing his existing anxiety issues as the reason. However, Sullivan's career was never going to be the same after his previous posts were uncovered. Lars only made it worse during his time off in 2020 by sending inappropriate messages to a fitness coach on Instagram. There was also a slur-filled, threatening voicemail he left the owner of a spa in 2024. It's fair to say the Freak wasn't just a nickname for Lars Sullivan. Another odd-looking wrestler that destroyed their career is Jackson Riker. Riker gave off the aura of someone that has a cup of coffee in WWE before being gone before you even realize he was there. This is almost what ended up happening. Sure, he wasn't a good wrestler, but we wouldn't be talking about Riker, nor would you even know or remember his name, if he hadn't ruined his career the way he did. Riker was called up to WWE TV in 2020 as part of the Forgotten Sons stable. They didn't get to do much before Riker effectively ruined any chance they had of establishing themselves, as they were quickly taken off TV. This was due to Riker's tweet supporting Donald Trump during the pandemic. The post faced major backlash, including from numerous WWE talent. Meanwhile, previous posts Riker made in 2019 condemning the Black Lives Matter group also came to the forefront. Riker was shockingly brought back to television in December 2020, where he formed a forgettable partnership with Elias, which was a low point for Elias's career, it must be said.
I said
WWE happy with this, and they weren't prepared to give Riker another.
Looks like I did it again. Shit. Hold on. Alright. I gotta figure out where give me a sec. I gotta figure out where the cutoff at. Hold on a second. Alright, I'm back. So I had to stop and see where I messed up at, because what it is I guess I gotta watch where I click on stuff, because usually I hit space to pause my videos or anything, and instead of pause my video I was watching, it paused my recording. So that's why it looked like I was saying something and cut off. So I think I was running Jackson Riker when it started happening. So I was saying that I didn't like how, like, at the time when after he was doing all that it was out of it that they had him broke up with Elias, but he made him the babyface instead of Elias. And that irked me a little bit, because I was already dealing with the nonsense with, I told you before, the dickheads that was getting my case for not rooting for the Hurt Business, because I ain't root for Hills, but they was trying, because I should have rooted for him because they black and all that as well too. Then this nonsense, and then folks were accusing me that I was too Hogan over the Hurt Business. Everybody know Hogan's a racist. So this one, like, I'm at this point, I'm like, this is the main reason why I really wish they get rid of the alliances, because of shit like this too. So I mean, because I just want to deal with that, or other wrestler fans who like to be dickheads. But that's another story or anything. So I'm sorry, I'm running this right back again to where it was earlier. So let's keep going.
Establishing themselves as they were quickly taken off TV. This was due to Riker's tweet supporting Donald Trump during the pandemic. The post faced major backlash, including from numerous WWE talent. Meanwhile, previous posts Riker made in 2019 condemning the Black Lives Matter group also came to the forefront. Riker was shockingly brought back to television in December 2020, where he formed a forgettable partnership with Elias, which was a low point for Elias's career, it must be said.
I said WWE stands for.
Fans weren't happy with this, and they weren't prepared to give Riker another chance due to his past comments. Riker was finally released in November 2021 before fading back into obscurity. Next, we'll highlight someone who was doing well in WWE, thanks to his talents that helped him stand out and differentiate himself from the typical ring announcer. He was the man that started the crowd's one fall trend.
Following contest scheduled for one fall. The following contest scheduled for one fall. Following contest scheduled for one fall. Following contest scheduled for one fall.
However, after putting his foot in his mouth during an online tirade, Greg Hamilton was promptly fired. In 2021, Greg's voice was sampled on a track from popular rapper West Side Gun.
Oh, I did kind of hear about that.
Hamilton took major issue with this and threatened to use WWE's lawyers to sue Gunn. While Hamilton may not have been happy with the situation, this wasn't the right way to go about it. As he tried to exercise power he absolutely didn't have. And the WWE obviously weren't pleased with Greg spouting his mouth in this manner. Just 2 days after his original post going off on Westside Gunn, Hamilton was released from his contract. Historically, WWE viewed ring announcers as expendable and easily replaceable, so if you give them a reason to get rid of you like Greg did, you're in trouble. Hamilton made a pathetic, tone-deaf attempt to get his job back in 2023 by seemingly paying tribute to the recently passed Bray Wyatt. Greg, however, made the post about himself, going as far to tag Triple H in a desperate plea to be rehired. If you search up Wrestling is Fake, D. David Schultz slapping a reporter is probably the most famous clip you'll come across.
Almost 7 foot tall, 280-pound lunatic. I'll ask you the standard question. You know?
Standard question.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You come.
Yup.
It was something that should have made Schultz a hero in the wrestling industry, especially since he was on the ascent at the time with an almost Steve Austin-like charisma.
Right here, baby. I am there. I am on the cover. I have made it. I am #1. Nobody's there but me.
You know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Dummy, can you talk?
Now you, Hulk Hogan, you belong in San Francisco. What's wrong with you, Gene? I'm telling you like it is. Whoa! You stupid idiot! First thing to do. Wait a minute. Okay, all right, just cool it. All right.
But the slap ended up costing Dr. D his career. Vince McMahon was behind the camera during the slap and had originally told Schultz to rough up the reporter for disrespecting the wrestling business. But once a lawsuit was filed over the incident, Vince shifted the blame onto David.
Vince came in and said, I wish somebody would reject that guy. Shook thought it would get brownie points. They went and did it.
Vince wanted me to take complete. He said I did it on my own. He didn't give me no direction to do it. I said, no, I'm not going to perjure myself and say, lie to, on the deposition. I'm going to tell the truth.
McMahon said he'd send Schultz to Japan for around 8 months until the heat cooled off. Then a feud with Hulk Hogan was promised for Schultz when he came back to the US. This never happened, and Hogan ended up working with Mr. T ahead of his first WrestleMania. Schultz was fired after WWF officials were afraid he was going to beat up T, since Dr. D wasn't happy a celebrity was coming to take a spot that should have been his.
I gave my whole career up. Because of these people.
David was ultimately forced out of wrestling altogether by the late 80s, so he retired and then became a successful bounty hunter.
Yeah, he got blackballed from a few places.
Yeah?
Yeah, wouldn't touch him. Yeah.
Because
it's unfortunate because he was taken up for his business.
Well, not only that, I mean, what great publicity.
Yeah.
They called me back and said nobody wants to sign a contract with you. You're too mean. You're too bad. Everybody I called, they didn't even want to talk to me as the promoters because of Vince.
You got any questions on me? I didn't think so.
Nails was another wrestler whose career was done for after getting on the wrong side of Vince. Nails barely did anything of note in his career until a meeting with McMahon went south. This was because Nails believed he'd been stiffed on pay after working a program with Big Boss Man. The altercation saw Nails scream at the boss for 15 minutes before knocking Vince out of his seat and choking the daylights out of him.
I shrieking like almost like an hysterical woman. And then you hear a big bang and then kind of a gurgling sound.
You have to stand up for yourself. I mean, you're not a man if you let some other person step on you and treat you like a bug.
Nails was fired after the incident but sued the World Wrestling Federation for wrongful termination, while also claiming to have been violated by Vince.
So then Nails went to a phone booth and called the police and said Vince McMahon grabbed his crotch so he wouldn't get arrested.
Nails testified against McMahon during the steroid trial in 1994, but did more to help the chairman's case than hurt it.
At the end, she was like, do you have any animosity towards Vince McMahon? And he goes, no. And she just goes, he doesn't know what the word animosity means. She goes, do you hate Vince McMahon? He goes, yes.
Nails briefly worked for WCW after leaving WWF, but wasn't deemed good enough to make more than one appearance on screen, and thus he was never seen in a major US promotion again. The flamboyant persona of the Velveteen Dream had been making waves in NXT until April of 2020, where he was accused of sending lewd and explicit images.
Definitely one of the biggest what if in wrestling, because man, he had star power for days, man.
Major US promotion again. The flamboyant persona of the Velveteen Dream had been making waves in NXT until April of 2020, where he was accused of sending lewd and explicit images to someone underage, as well as further allegations of grooming, all of which Dream, real name Patrick Clark, denied. The WWE investigated the claims, but they found no evidence of wrongdoing.
We looked into it, didn't find anything there in the manner that
what we were looking for, and we moved on.
This led to much backlash from fans who believed Clark should have been fired. Clark was taken off television in December 2020 before being released 5 months later. He continued to deny all accusations, but didn't publicly speak on the matter until 3 years later, including during an interview with Chris Van Vliet.
She had a phone conversation over Instagram. At no point in time did I ever type anything or say anything that should have or could have been misconstrued as an advance of any type. This has been looked at by my former company, WWE. This has been looked at, I'm sure, by police. Josh says, I would like to say that Patrick was never directly sexual to me.
Clark stated that images of text were doctored and the explicit photos were not of him. Patrick also stated that while he had interacted with a 16-year-old male named Josh, who was trying to break into the business, the conversation was strictly about wrestling. In 2024, fans were surprised to see Odyssey Jones align with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods of the New Day. Odyssey had been inactive on WWE programming for an entire year, despite being previously drafted to Raw from NXT without ever having debuted on the Red brand.
400 pounds flying around. There's no way. You gotta be kidding me.
The plan was for Jones, Xavier, and Kofi to move forward as a trio after turning heel on Big E. But 3 months before this was penciled in to happen, Odyssey was abruptly removed from television just 3 weeks after his initial return. This was due to domestic violence accusations that were made against him. Over the years, the WWE has come to adopt a zero-tolerance policy on such matters, especially when it comes to someone lower down on the totem pole like Jones. As of now, nothing more has come out regarding the incident, other than the news that no arrest was made, nor were any charges filed. Either way, it's unlikely we'll see Odyssey back anytime soon. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out a similar video of 10 ruthless WWE receipts you didn't know about.
Yeah, so, wow. Crazy finding all these sisters as well, too, though, with, the Riley one got me like, wow, that's messed up in whatever situation, but Lars, whatever, the Lars situation, whatever. The New Jack incident sucks well, too. The Bagwell situation sucked because he went to a downward spiral going after that. Yeah, the Lars and Jackson, whatever. The Greg Hamilton, that was like, wow. They showed that was so unfortunate right there. Vince them totally dirty that one. The Nails one was crazy. The Velveteen Dream and Ozzy Jones was just straight up unfortunate. Other than that, if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's your boy T-Bird signing off. One love.